Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking on Capnclydes MTG. It's the last day of Doctor Who spoilers yesterday. Um, so yeah, we've got a lot of more reprints and a lot of other things going on, and it's all pretty sweet if I do say so myself. So before we get started, we got a lot to go over. Don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, help support the channel, keep us sponsor free. Once we get to 1,000, we can have a little celebration. So make sure you're subscribed so you can get all the information on the cool stuff. Now, moving right along, let's start with the plane chase cards. We have the Storm Cage, Containment Facility, Unknown Planet. Each creature card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the mana cost, plus exiling 3 cards. We've seen it on plenty of things. Whenever chaos ensues, detain target creature and opponent controls. Very interesting. Next, we have Ode Sphere, Horsehead Nebula. It has non-creature spells have Convoke. That's pretty amazing. It has Red Eye for Chaos, which is whenever Chaos ensues, um, for each opponent, go up to one target creature that opponent controls until end of turn. Those creatures can't become tapped unless they're being declared as attackers. Next, we have Singing Towers of Darlinium. So each non-land card in your hand without Foretell has Foretell. Its Foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. Okay. Whenever chaos ensues, you may cast a Foretell card you own from exile without paying its mana cost this turn. Very interesting. So next we have Kerblam Warehouse. So whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Whenever chaos ensues until end of turn, non-creature artifacts you control gain tap, sacrifice this artifact, flip a coin. If you win, it deals 3 damage to any target. It's kind of cool, I guess. Next, we have the Drum Mining Facility on Earth. Whenever you roll planar die, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste till end of turn. Wow, that's powerful. Whenever chaos ensues, you end the turn. Ooh, that's yeah. So you can either hit for a lot or just end your turn. Next, we have the Dining Car. So this is a spacecraft. When you planeswalk to the dining car, each player creates a food token. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control, then investigate. Ooh, wow. Okay. Whenever chaos ensues, activate abilities of artifact tokens you control. Um, cost 2 less to activate this turn. Interesting. Next, we have the Doctor's Tomb. I love this picture. Um, Transalore. If a creature would die, instead exile it, and that creature's controller loses 2 life. Wow, that's just rough. When chaos ensues, redistribute any number of player life totals. Wow. Um, this will shake up a game, something fierce. Okay, next we have Deluxe Foundation Library. Players have no max hand size, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Wow, is that sweet. Whenever chaos ensues, put a shadow counter on target creature. A creature with a shadow can't block or be blocked except by creatures with shadow. I haven't seen shadow in forever. Temple of Atropes. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. Okay, so the beginning phase includes the untap, upkeep, and draw steps. Wow, so this is absurd. So you can cast and do all your stuff, and then you get to untap again right before you attack. This is insane. When Chaos ensues, reverse the game's turn order. This card is just absurd. And just, yeah, this is just ridiculous. All right, moving on. 2 Streams Facility. So whenever you planeswalk to 2 Streams Facility at the beginning of your first upkeep of the game, each player chooses Green Anchor or Red Waterfall. Each player who last chose Green Anchor may play an additional land during each of their turns. Creatures controlled by players who last chose Red Waterfall get +2/+0 and have haste. When chaos ensues, each player who last chose Green Anchor chooses Red Waterfall and vice versa. Okay. Next, we have Prime Minister's Cabinet Room. At the beginning of combat in your turn, up to one target creature you control becomes a copy of target creature an opponent controls. You get the will of the council on chaos. Whenever chaos ensues, starting with you, each player votes for a creature you don't control. Exile each creature with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So you could possibly get 2 creatures with 4 players. Pretty neat. All right, next we have New York. So at the begin New Earth. That's funny. At the beginning of combat in your turn, until end of turn, non-creature artifacts you control become 3/3 vehicles. In addition to other types, they gain flying, haste, and crew 1. Um, that's okay, I guess. Whenever chaos ensues, create a treasure token and a 2/2 white alien creature token. Interesting. All right. Now we're into the very last of the cards. We got some good ones. We have Vizlor Turlo, black and 3 for a 2/5 that has. When he enters the battlefield, you may have an opponent gain control of it. If you do, it's goaded for as long as they control it. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. Then you lose life equal to the total number of cards in your hand. Um, I mean, it's cool and all. I mean, I would assume most people probably just keep this unless you're trying to give it to somebody who has like 10 cards in their hand. You want to zap them for a buttload. And it's a Doctor's Companion for a 2/5. Not, it's interesting. Cybermen Squadron. So 7 colorless for a 5/5. Non-legendary artifact creatures you control have mirrored. Whenever a creature mirrored attacks for each opponent, each opponent other than defending player, you may create tokens that are copies that are tapped and attacking. Yada yada yada. Exile the tokens. Okay, so if you have for 7 mana, if you have 3 players, you can attack everybody with 5/5s for 7. That's pretty cool. Cyberman Patrol, 2 colorless for a 2/2. Artifact creatures you control have afflict 3. Ooh, wow. That's pretty good. Vashta Nurid, black and 2 for a 1/1 indestructible creature with shadow. Wow, we haven't another mention of shadow. We haven't seen shadow creatures in forever. Morbid, at the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That's a very powerful creature. Just because people don't play shadow spells, and it's indestructible, so like dealing with this thing is gonna be very hard. And if it gets too big, it's almost impossible to deal with. Next, we have Midnight Crusader Shuttle, 4 colorless for a 3/4 vehicle. Uh, whenever it uh, whenever it attacks, defending player faces a villainous choice. That player sacrifices a creature, or you gain control of a creature of your choice that player controls till end of turn. If you gain control of a creature this way, tap it and it's attacking that player. Jesus. This is insanely good. That's a hell of a vehicle for an uncommon. Next, we have Wound Reflection, black and 5 enchantment. Beginning of each player's end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they've already lost this turn. That is a reprint. Blasphemous Act reprint. Red and 8 costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. Deals 13 damage to everything. A Propaganda reprint. Haven't seen that in a very long time. Propaganda is a blue and 2. Creatures can't attack you unless they pay 2 colorless for each creature attacking you. Pretty sweet. Interesting reprints so far. We have a new one, Hunted by the Family, 2 blue and 5. Choose up to 4 target creatures you don't control. For each of them, that creature's controller faces a villainous choice. That creature becomes 1/1 white human soldier creature token and loses all abilities, or you create a token that's a copy of it. That's going to be very popular in a lot of decks. Next, we have Ensnared by the Mara. 2 red and 2 sorcery. Each opponent faces a villainous choice. They exile cards to the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Then you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Or that player exiles the top 4 cards of their library, and it deals damage equal to the total mana value of those exile cards to that player. I mean, it's a good card. I just really hate free casting cards that just get out of hand. But I mean, it is Commander, and shenanigans are always afoot. So whatever. Zygon Infiltrator, blue and 2 for a 3/2. It has body print. Blue and 2, tap another target creature and put a stun counter on it. Zygon Infiltrator becomes a copy of that creature as long as that creature remains tapped. Wow, is that good? Nothing like a Vasubin that locks something down, becomes something nasty, and then punches you in the face because of it. All right, we have a Dalek drone. Wow, 2 black and 3 for a drone. 3/3 Flying Menace. Wow, that's a lot. When Dalek drone enters the battlefield, destroy target creature and opponent controls. That player loses 3 life. Okay. So it's kind of like the 2/2 doggo that for 4 mana would do this, except for an extra mana, you get Flying Menace, um, and the opponent loses 3 life. Now it sounds like a deal. You put it that way. Wow, that's really good. All right, next we have Dalek Squadron, black and 2 with Menace, 3/3, merited. So we just went over what merited is. We have a Time Reaper, black, 2 black and 3 for a 4/4 flying haste. That's pretty good. That's normally what you see on like a red card, but okay. Whenever Time Reaper deals combat damage to a player, put target face up card they own in exile on the bottom of their library. If you do, you gain 3 life. Okay, so this basically just eats the spin cards, and you gain life. But at the same time, like, wow, the only thing this is missing is Vigilance to be a Sarah Angel, but instead it has haste. Like, this is like a Storm Breath Dragon almost with bonus. This is insane. This is really good. Next, we have the Cyber Ship, 6 colorless for an 8/8 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, put the top 2 cards of that player's library onto the battlefield face down. Under your control, they're 2/2 Cybermen artifacts. I mean, yeah, this seems really good. Crew 4 is going to be hard. The 6 mana is going to be hard. Getting through with it might be hard. But being able to peel cards off your opponent's deck so they can't play them, plus deal damage, is probably going to be worth playing this if you've got the ability to crew it. We have a Cybermat. I love how these things look like little. Anyway, 2 colorless for a 2/1 with Skulk. Whenever Cybermat attacks and isn't blocked, it gets +X/+O to end a turn where X is the number of attacking artifact creatures. I mean, it's fine. I mean, more often than not, it's probably going to be blocked because if not, someone's probably going to take a butt ton in the face, but still cool. An artifact deck. Next, we have Ashad, the Lone Cyberman. So red, black, blue, and 1. 3/3. The first non-legendary artifact spell you cast each turn has Casualty 2. Which means as you cast it, you can sacrifice a creature power 2 or greater. When you do, you get to copy it. A copy of an artifact spell becomes a token. Wow, you can just make tons of stuff. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this card. And it gets bigger. That's really good. We have Rassilon, the War President, black, blue, and 3 for a 3/4. Beginning of upkeep, you lose 2 life and exile top card of your library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Each non-creature spell you cast from exile has Conspire. Wow. For those you don't know, Conspire is as you cast it, you may tap 2 untap creatures you control that share a color with it. When you do, copy it, and you may choose new targets. So this is insanely good for 5 mana. This is almost as good, if not better, than Sauron, I think. Or just a good card to have in a Sauron deck because Aspire all day long, make tokens. It just does it all. Wow. We have the Master Mesmerist, black, blue, and 2 for a 3/3 Time Lord Rogue. Target creature an opponent controls with power less than or equal to this card's power gains Skulk till end of turn. Goaded. Whenever a creature with Skulk deals combat damage to one of your opponents, put a +1/+1 counter on this card, and you draw a card. This is insanely good. This is basically just says every turn you're gonna make Bob smack Sue, and because of it, I'm gonna make this guy bigger and draw a card, which are probably gonna get you attacked by probably both of them, honestly. But anyway, Master Multiplied. So red, black, and 4 for a 4/3 Time Lord Rogue. Has merited. The ledger rule doesn't apply to creature tokens you control. Wow. Triggered abilities you control can't cause you to sacrifice or exile creature tokens you control. This is huge. If you play this with Cybermen we just saw, your tokens never go away and you just make this massive field of dudes. Yeah. So apparently there's a merited deck in there somewhere. Really good card. All right, next we have the Master, Gallifrey's End. Time Lord Rogue, red, black, and 2 for a 4/3. When a non-token artifact creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, choose an opponent with the most life among your opponents. That player forces a villainous choice. They lose 4 life, or you create a token that's a copy of that card. Interesting. The Sound of Drums, red and 2. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature is goaded. If enchanted creature would deal combat damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. For red and 2, you can pick it back up so you can put it on something else, which is really cool. Noted from the graveyard. So you can put it on something, not worrying about what happens to that creature because you just pick this up and play it again. This is going to be a very popular card in red decks. Um, Renegade Silent, blue and 3 for a 3/3. Beginning of your end step, go to up to one target creature you don't control and put a +1/+1 counter on this card. Renegade Silent phases out. So every turn it gets bigger and no one can do anything about it unless they kill it on your turn. Very good uncommon, a very interesting card. All right, so we got the reprint of the blue-green Snarl. We know the Snarls are here. I mean, it's better than normal lands, I guess. Temple of Mystery, the last couple temples. We do have the Shelter Thicket. We talked about that. Rootbound Crag, we talked about that. At least we have some better cards in the set, like I mentioned before, for the land base. Probably still not ideal, but at least playable. We'll go with that, playable. All right, next we have the Rockfall Vale reprint, Reliquary Tower reprint, which is really cool. It's kind of City in the Bottle kind of deal. I like it. Game Trail reprint, Frontier Buavac. This is the basic 3-mana card. Comes into play tapped. Not real happy about it, but I mean, whatever. Next, we have the Dreamroot Cascade reprint. Desolate Lighthouse gets another reprint. Cinder Glade. Last Night Together. So here's a new one finally. Red, green, and 3. Choose 2 target creatures, untap them, put 2 +1/+1 counters on each of them. They gain Vigilance, Indestructible, and Haste until end of turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase. Only the chosen creatures can attack during that phase of combat. So there for a second I was really confused, but I got all this cool stuff, but it had to untap them. But now I see you can punch somebody in the face really hard and be like, hey, guess what? Let's run that one back with some bigger guys. Yeah, so that card seems really good. Good. We have a Growth Spiral reprint. Lovely art. Thagurian Witness. Green and 1. 0/4 flash. Whenever another creature dies, if it was attacking or blocking alone, exile it and investigate. Pretty good card. Stops your opponent and kind of you too, as it says anytime. But it does let you investigate. Sisterhood of Karn. Wait a minute. Like the Karn Father? Probably not. Let's see. Green and 1 for a 0/0. Enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Paradox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than hand, double the number of +1/+1 counters on Sisterhood of Karn. It'd been really cool if it was like actually for Karn. You know, the Sisterhood of Karn. Anyway. And we got a Farseek reprint. You know, obviously you can go search your library for, well, I mean, basically anything except the forest. And put it in the battlefield tapped. So, good comment. Like the art. Next we have Cultivate reprint. Beast Within reprint. This has lost a lot of value with the white cards coming out now. That does the exact same thing. But this one's green, so it's not white, so it still has value. Throes of Chaos, red and 3, Cascade, and Retrace. So this is a Cascade card that lets you cast anything from top of your deck, 3 or less, and you can retrace it from your graveyard if you draw a land, which is insanely good for anybody playing a red deck. If you're playing a red deck, you're like, oh look, I drew a land. I guess I'll just discard this and cast Throes and Chaos and hope I hit something 3 or less. This could be very huge in a very big way. We have Osgood Operation Double, 2 blue and 2 for a 2/2. When you cast this spell, create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't a legendary. Okay. Tap, add a colorless. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate artifact abilities. Paradox, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere in your hand, you get to investigate. So for 4 mana, you get 2 2/2s that are kind of mana dorks for spell artifacts. I mean, cool, I guess. I mean, if that's what you're into. I mean, it's 4 mana, though. Anyway, moving on, we have the Cursed Mirror reprint. In case you didn't know what that does, red and 2, taps, add a red. Enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield to end a turn, except it has haste. So the first turn in, it's going to punch you in the face really hard. After that, it's a mana rock. Think Twice reprint. Love the art on it. Very nice. Draw a card, flashback for 3. The Rani. So red, black, blue, and 1 for a 3/4. Whenever the Rani enters the battlefield or attacks, create a red aura enchantment token named Mark of the Rani attached to another target creature. That token has enchanted creature, and this the token has enchant creature, and enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. Ugh. Okay. Whenever a goaded creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, you get to investigate. Very interesting. Good way to get the game over quick and help you draw some cards. Great Intelligence's Plan. Black, blue, and 4 sorcery. Draw 3. Then target opponent faces a villainous choice. They discard 3 cards, or you may cast a spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. Oh my god, is that good? Um, I mean, for every mana you draw a card or your opponent discards, or you get to play a card from your hand for free. Now you're never gonna probably never, unless you make some shenanigan draws, some shenanigan deals with your opponent, get to play a card from your hand for free. And often too, if your opponent doesn't have many cards in hand or none at all, they'll just discard 3 cards because it won't matter. But with that said, this is still an amazing card for any deck. Just phenomenal. Wow. All right, next we have delete, delete. Anyway, sorry. 2 red and X deal X damage to each non-artifact creature and each player. So we have a Wrath for everybody except the Cybermen. The Flood of Mars, 2 blue and 2, 3/3 Island Walker. Wow, Island Walk? We haven't seen that forever. Whenever the Flood of Mars attacks, put a flood counter on another target creature or land. If it's a creature, it becomes a copy of the Flood of Mars. If it's a land, it becomes an island in addition to other types. So if this thing attacks, it's never getting blocked because you can just make whoever you're attacking, give them an island. Or yourself. I mean, I guess you could technically do it to yourself as well. Or turn your other creatures into floods. Like it's really cool. It's a zombie that you can make other things into zombies. You can it's really powerful for blue. I like this card a lot. It can do a lot of things. It can make you a horde of zombies. It can give your opponent all islands if they're not playing blue, so they can't cast anything. This could be a bad idea. Anyway, Satari in general, red 4 and for a 5/5 trampling haste, pretty much on rate. It has battalion though. Whenever it attacks with 2 other creatures, for each opponent, goad up to 1 target creature that player controls. Those creatures can't block this turn. Interesting. And we have a Snuff Out reprint. Wow, we haven't seen this in forever. I can't believe they put a Snuff Out reprint in this set. That's a good reprint. For those of you who don't know, Snuff Out's a black and 3. If you control a swamp, you could pay 4 life rather than the spell's cost to destroy a non-black creature and it can't regenerate. I know regeneration is not a real big thing anymore, but the fact that for 4 life you could play it for free means on a tapped out board you could possibly save yourself if your opponent does something. This is really big in Legacy, and a great card, and it's really cool to see it get reprinted. Especially in Commander, that way it doesn't change too much. Then we have the Master, formed anew, black and blue for an 0/1 Time Lord Rogue Body Thief that says, when you cast this spell, you may exile a creature card you control and put a takeover counter on it. You may have the Master, formed anew, enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature card in exile with a takeover counter on it. Oh my god. So if your best creature, which is just the bombest thing ever, dies the next turn for 2 mana, you can literally put it back on the field. Like, just literally. Like, this is insanely good. Oh my god. And it's in black blue, so you can like do the whole discard mill thing, so you can put cool stuff in your wow. This is going to be a very popular deck archetype. Otan Soldier, 2 blue and 4, 0/0. You may have the soldier enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it isn't a legendary. It's an artifact in addition to other types and has mirrored it. So this is cool. And when you attack, the new soldiers can come in as anything technically on the battlefield, but if you happen to kill everybody's stuff, they can only come in as the alien soldier. This is a really weird card. Plus, it's 6 mana. I'm not sure this is going to be a thing, but I mean, it's a decent idea. It does play in the theme, so we'll give it that. We'll give it that. All right. So a couple from yesterday that I missed. We have Start to TARDIS. In other words, fire up. Blue and 1, surveil 2, draw 2 cards. You may planeswalk. Hey, And it has Jump Start. You can use it from your graveyard. Wow, a card that lets you planeswalk immediately, but it is a sorcery, so still very playable. Carvastavia Loyal Luparian. Wow, it has a venture. Okay. Green and 4 for a 5/5 Vigilance Trample Haste. Jesus. Can we just not fit more keywords on this? Whenever it attacks, put +1/+1 counter on each human you control. Why humans? It's a dog soldier. Anyway, that's still amazing, but for a sorcery, you get green and 1 humans you control gain indestructible end of turn. Unfortunately, it's a sorcery, or it would be really good. I mean, it's still fine, but now your opponent sees it coming. Yeah, so next we have a Ponder reprint, and once they unban that thing, they put it everywhere. Along with Preordain, referring to both these cards. Um, yeah, good art though, not too shabby, not gonna lie. All right, and finally we're gonna wrap it up with 4 last cards. We have a reprint of Chaos Warp. It is what it is. I mean, whatever. We have Truth or Consequences, red, blue, and 2 sorcery. Each player secretly votes Truth or Consequences. Then these votes are revealed. You draw cards equal to the number of Truth votes. Then choose an opponent at random. Truth or Consequences deals 3 damage to that player for each Consequences vote. I just feel like you're just going to be bolting a lot of people every time. So, but, I mean, whatever, I guess. Then you have me, the Immortal. So red, blue, green, and 2 for a 3/3 human rogue. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a +1/+1, first strike, vigilance, or menace counter on me, the Immortal. Okay, so after like 4 turns, it just does it all. It's fine. Counters remain uh, uh, on me as it moves to other zones other than the player's hand or library. Wow, so as long as it doesn't go back to your hand, as long as it doesn't go into the library, um, it keeps all the counters. So if this is your commander, at some point, it could literally be a 4/4 first striking vigilance menace creature. Yeah, so this is insane. You may cast me from the graveyard by discarding 2 cards in addition to paying its mana cost, or just not have your commander and just cast it from the graveyard constantly. Oh my god, is this card really cool. Nice. And finally, we have a Carpet of Flowers reprint. It's kind of cool art, not gonna lie. So there you have it. That's the last of the reveals for Doctor Who. It's gonna be very interesting. It's cool to see how some of these cards are really not just in the deck, but playable in other decks. Like there's a shadow card here, there's an adventure card there, so you could make an adventure deck and have a new card in it. Really cool to see how it's all coming together. People are really FOMOing over this product because they think it's not going to be printed a lot. We'll have to wait and see how that really goes. But at the end of the day, we'll have to see what happens. So, with all that said and done, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. We'll get back to our normally scheduled random shenanigans from me later now that season's over. So, until next time, be kind, and I hope to see you across from the game table. What the hell am I going to talk about next? Maybe I should sew some cards or something.